Welcome to Table to Stage. I am Jordan Werma, and this is my podcast. I think I am going to exercise a little bit of creative license and ramble for a minute to start today, so please bear with me. All right, so Table to Stage is a podcast about creativity. It is my little attempt to promote the arts and artists and just the general application of creativity and creative thought in what could otherwise be rather mundane activities. And largely because I need my own reminders to do that as well, but I hope it can be more than that. So, at least to me, genuine creativity and artistry, and even just conversations about those things, really require trust. So I have to be able to trust my listeners to be open to these conversations. And you, my dear listeners, have to trust that I'll honor the premise and be genuine in my interactions with my guests. And most importantly, I think my guests have to trust me and their audiences to be open to their stories, receptive of their art, and to be able to treat them with dignity and integrity. There's a real vulnerability in the creative that I don't believe should ever be overlooked and certainly not exploited. So I do my best to honor all of this with every episode and with every guest. But with today's guest, I want to be particularly open about this because my guest, Ben Orlando, shared such a personal and moving story that I think it could have an impact on other people hearing the conversation. So before I roll it, I want to make sure to give a big thank you to Ben for his willingness to be so open and so vulnerable in such a public forum. We recorded this in downtown New Haven at the Three Sheets Bar, and it's now being broadcast to the world. So there's no hiding from this. Ben Orlando is the man behind Summer Orlando, who is the self-described Connecticut's premier theater queen. So I went into this as a complete ignoramus when it comes to drag queens, and Ben accepted me and my ignorance and my curiosity without judging me for it, which I very, very much appreciate. It was really such a wonderful conversation. So without any further rambling from me, let's get right to it. Here are Ben and me from Three Sheets. Are you originally from Connecticut?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where from?
Waterbury.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Waterbury, then I moved to Naugatuck and was living with my mom where she lives. And then I moved to New Haven 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up in Waterbury? I had my two brothers went to high school there. My dad was a minister there for a while.
Okay.
I lived in Waterbury for a while, so I'm a little familiar with the city.
There's not a lot to do down there.
Yeah, it's a lot of husks of buildings.
There's a mall, kind of.
Is there still?
There's still a mall. I don't know what stores are down there. I know they still have the movie theater, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So growing up there, was there a lot of art and theater in your life as a child there, or
Just the theater company that I did community theater with.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
Pretty much.
So how do you grow up in Waterbury and end up as a performer and an artist? What was your introduction to the arts and performing?
Okay. Basically, well, it started in elementary school.
Oh, okay.
You know, we did like, I was part of a group in the, I was in the first grade, and this kindergarten teacher her name was Miss Febles. She had a group called the Rainbow Kids, and it was like a bunch of kindergarteners that got together and sang songs, like assembly style at school in the auditorium. And I remember the first song that I ever sang publicly in front of anybody was Tomorrow from Annie.
Oh, wow.
Yes. In the original key.
Okay.
And,
how old are you? Kindergarten, first grade?
No, I was in first grade.
First grade,
yeah.
okay.
I was in first grade.
All right.
And
that's not an unheard of register for.
No. And then I got I got all the applause, and I loved it so much. I was like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I love this. Whatever this is, I want to do more of this. And then, I just did like talent shows and stuff in elementary school.
Yeah.
And then it led to, in the 5th grade, I was, there was a posting in the newspaper for auditions for The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, okay.
Yep, with the Blessed Sacrament
That's
Children's
the first
Theater.
show I ever did, too.
Really?
Yeah.
Who were you?
I was the wizard.
You were the wizard, and I was the scarecrow. Yes.
That's
and
cool.
I actually was the scarecrow alongside Connecticut's own Katie Stevens, who is on American Idol Top 5. She's on she's on The Bold Type on MTV, I think it is.
I didn't even know MTV was still on, honestly.
Oh yeah, MTV. I think it's on MTV, and she a couple other stuff, and she lives in Nashville now, and she's an amazing singer, performer, actress. She was my Dorothy.
Okay.
And
Wow.
and it was so cool to like do that, and then see where her life went, and where her talent took her.
This was 5th grade.
This was 5th grade. Yeah.
Well, so from 1st to 5th grade, talent shows, to elementary school musicals, stuff like that.
I was exposed to theater, so like not fundraisers, field trips. We would go to colleges and other schools, and sometimes theaters, and watch children's theater productions of like Charlotte's Web and different things. We would have actors, touring companies that do like school productions that have nice messages and morals in the auditorium, like puppet shows and stuff.
The super traditional family value moral kind of stuff. Yeah.
And saw a lot of that, and it just like that's how I was exposed to the world of theater, and then getting to do it was doing Wizard of Oz. And that sealed the deal for me, and I said, this is me.
Yeah. What was it about being on stage in that way? Was it being part of a larger group telling a story? Was it just being able to have people applauding something that you enjoyed doing? Was there a certain aspect of that performance that really kind of sucked you in? And
I think it was all of those elements, but I think the biggest element was seeing the smiles and hearing the applause of the audience, and the cheering and all the acclamations after the show was over, when I was walking around and people wanted autographs. It like blew my mind. It made me feel famous and special. And I was like, wow, people really think I'm talented and I can sing, and they love this. So I'm going to keep doing this because it makes people happy, and it makes me happy.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the scarecrow is, for my money, the most fun you can have.
Oh, it is.
In The Wizard of Oz.
It is.
So
especially for a 5th grade kid who halfway through rehearsals broke his arm and had to do the rehearsals in a full hard cast, like all of the roles and pratfalls I had to do. But it was off by the time showtime came. But it was really really fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I was just back then. I had just discovered The Wizard of Oz. I had watched it on tape, and it was like life-changing.
That's about 10 years old, right?
Yeah.
5th grade?
Yeah.
It's probably Wizard of Oz age.
Wizard of Oz
that.
was everything for me.
Yeah.
And I would, my aunt, who was also a Wizard of Oz fan, collected all the collectibles. So she started me doing that, and I had my room was filled with Wizard of Oz figurines and collectibles and whatever. And then when I saw it in the newspaper, I was like, I have to audition.
No, was this a school production, or was it a community theater?
This was a community theater production,
okay.
The Blessed Sacrament Children's Theater, which is the theater that I now work for.
Oh,
so it's a full circle moment for me. That's
so
what makes it very special.
You had a long relationship with that.
I do,
that group then.
Because the rule with them is you can go until 8th grade.
Okay.
And then after 8th grade, you age out.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yep.
All right, and we're going to get back to that theater in a little bit, I think.
Sure.
But I'm curious, in those early years when you had just started performing, just been on stage, started singing and experiencing theater and performance for the first time, what was your support system like at home or among your friend group or anything like that? Did you have people that were excited to see you getting this opportunity, or maybe getting a little bit pushback from it?
My support system back then, for when I was doing community theater as a kid, that was absolutely, they were all for it. They were very supportive. they came to every show. All my family came to every show, and my mom was my biggest supporter, and my grandma. Because my sister, I have a younger sister, 3 years younger than me. Her name's Danielle, and she's also ultra super talented. And she actually started at this theater before I did. So I had jumped into it years later. So I think her first production was Annie, and she was like a little orphan. Okay. So she loved doing theater too. Mm-hmm. And I remember that everyone would come out. I would have like the whole row would be like booked with family members who bought tickets to come see all the shows, and they were very, very supportive. And there was a time where I was going to New York, and I had an agent, and I was doing commercials and working for educational video school videos. And this
was when you were like a teenager, or?
No, this was when I was in about the 5th grade.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep, fifth, 6th grade.
Okay, so very young.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. How long into your performing career, and this I'm sure is going to kind of dovetail into a larger story, but I'm curious, like, how long had you been performing, and in what venues and types of performance had you been doing when you decided that, or how did you come to the decision, I guess, that drag performance was something that would fit not just your skill set, but your lifestyle, the kind of performance you want to do? What was that decision process like for you?
Well, that's like way down the timeline, but we can go there. That's totally fine. I was discovering myself in college.
Okay, which college was this?
This was Lincoln Culinary Institute in Hartford,
Culinary
which is
Institute,
no longer around.
Okay.
Culinary. That was my my background, my backup.
Yeah.
I did not have the support of my parents to pursue theater. They didn't think that it was a career that could make money and be substantial.
They supported the culinary enterprise.
Well, it was more like, we're not paying for you to go to theater school and sing and dance and not go anywhere with your life.
Right.
And I even got a money and a scholarship from the American Musical Dramatic Academy in New York.
Wow.
And that was my dream school at the time, where I wanted to go. And it was by audition only, and I got in. I got in, and I got a scholarship. They were like, we'll give you some money towards it. And my parents wouldn't let me go. So they said, you need to make a different decision. So I always loved baking and making like cakes and stuff. And I was like, well, maybe I can do that.
Did they see that more as like a trade?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Just trying to figure out,
because it's something that you could.
Where's the delineation?
It's something that you could take, and you could definitely like find work.
Right.
Because acting is and always will be the hardest job that anyone could ever do in the world. And everyone tells you, and everyone told me, you hear everyone say, if you can think of anything else besides being an actor,
right,
do it.
Yeah.
But if you wake up every morning and you can't think of anything but acting, then you are meant to be an actor. And that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
I can't think of my life without the world of theater. I don't know what I would do. But back to college. So I was discovering myself, and college was the time that I came out as gay. And there was, but you can say, you're doing a different trade and going to college for something else. But if you're meant to be an actor, that love for theater is not going to go away.
Sure.
So while I was going as a full-time student to Lincoln Culinary Institute, there were auditions for the Rocky Horror Show at the Warner Theater in Torrington, Connecticut.
Yeah. I was just there a few weeks ago.
Yeah, great theater. And I paid my friend to drive me all the way from Hartford to Torrington to audition.
Yeah.
I came in full Frankenfurter drag. Bad drag, because this was before I even knew what drag was.
Okay.
This was basically, I knew that these characters and these roles you had to cross-dress for.
So did you go to Party City and get some
Amazon, but yeah, I had a corset on and some fishnets and some really bad makeup. some like fright and some fright wig. It was,
Yeah.
it was very bad. So I ended up getting in the show as a phantom, which is an ensemble member in that show. So doing backup. And I was so like grateful and glad to be doing theater again.
Yeah.
And so I made it work. I went to my school. My schooling was in the morning. It was from like 6 a.m. to 10. So then the rest of the day I had to myself. So I would pay someone to take me 3 times a week back and forth to Torrington to go to rehearsal.
Yeah.
And then do the shows.
How long had it been between this Rocky Horror and your previous show? Like, are we talking?
A long time.
Yeah, years.
No. Actually, that's not true. I went to an arts magnet high school.
Okay.
Called the Waterbury Arts Magnet School, which is in Waterbury, Connecticut, downtown. It's connected to the Palace Theater.
Yeah.
And my senior show was 42nd Street, and we did it on the Palace stage. And I was playing Billy Lawler, and I had to learn to tap dance for the show. And it was probably the closest thing at that time to being on Broadway that I could ever. They dropped like 1,000 fake $100 bills from the ceiling and like doing the number "We're in the Money" and having money drop and being on such a ginormous stage and the sets and the costumes.
The Palace is so bizarre because it's this beautiful theater in the middle of Waterbury. It just doesn't belong.
It doesn't belong. It doesn't, because like you walk in there and you're like,
yeah.
And it's so funny because I have so many great stories about the Palace, because the Palace is where I did my senior show, and the Palace is also where I had my senior prom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we did. The senior prom happened in the main lobby where those 2 winding staircases are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was great. And
But that was your senior year of high school?
Yep.
And Rocky Horror was...
So since
Was that your first year of...
Since this was a trade school, like a certificate program, it wasn't like your typical school that you're there for 4 years or 2 years. This is like a year program. You're there for like a year, you get your certificate, and then you go straight to work.
Okay.
So right after high school, it was probably like, I want to say a month and a half or something before I immediately went to college.
Okay.
So there wasn't like a big gap.
Yeah, you took the summer off and went right back.
Not even.
No,
it was
okay.
just like, go right into it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that was my last show, and then I just the longing was there. I'd started work, and I was like, I'm missing theater.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
isn't... I was eager to be doing this, and I made new friends, and it was great. But theater, I knew, is what I wanted to do. So then I found Rocky Horror, and I was like, great. It's now I have the best of both worlds.
Right.
So then going back and forth, doing Rocky Horror, this, that, and the other thing. This was also the time that I came out, and my parents are divorced. So at the time, my mom was out of the picture. She was like, figuring out her life wherever she was. Yeah. And my dad was the one who was paying for college, and I had come out to him, and he, coming from a background where his father was like really strict Italian, raised like from the boat.
Okay.
He was raised that way. Very homophobic, very racist, very all of those things. Straight-laced, and he was a martial arts instructor and the sergeant of I don't know if I should say the town he is, but a sergeant of a police department.
Okay.
And
it's a great combination.
Oh yeah. So yeah, so you can realize the strictness that my life was.
Well, that must have been. I won't pretend to understand what that has to be like to have that conversation.
Well, it was over the phone.
Because
I was in
safety
Hartford.
thing?
No, I was in Hartford, and he was there, and I was like, "Now's the time. This needs to happen."
Yeah, yeah.
And I came out to him, and the conversation went like this: "Well, good luck ruining your life. No son of mine is going to be gay. You're throwing all of your successes away, and you know what? You'd be better off dead in a gutter." And then click, and then he hung up. After there was a bunch of cussing and unpleasantries back and forth because it was a heated discussion. And then he hung up on me. And then about a couple days later, I believe it was, I got a voicemail from my guidance counselor to come down to the center. So I went down, and
this was at the culinary place. Okay.
and they sat me down on the couch, and they said, well, your dad has decided to stop paying for college. So you have two choices. You can either stay another day, because I guess the next day was like the rollover day into the next time.
What timing?
And pay X amount of dollars.
Right.
I know X amount of dollars, which I didn't have because I was not working. I was a full-time student and then doing this theater.
Yeah.
Or you can leave tomorrow and basically say goodbye to everybody and just leave and not owe anything else.
Yeah.
And end your schooling there. Now, and so unfortunately, I had to make the hard decision that I couldn't afford it, so I had to leave.
Yeah.
So I'd called my grandmother up, and her and my aunt drove up, and we packed all of my stuff in one trip into like a small car, and drove all the way back to Waterbury, and I stayed and lived with her for about a year.
Yeah.
When I got back to her house the same day, I got a phone call from my dad, and he acted like nothing was wrong. And he just was like, saying horrible things about, making sure that what I'm saying is the right thing, that I'm sure that this is what I want to do. Telling me that I'm not allowed back in the house and this and that. And then he shut off my phone. He hung up on me. Then my phone service was cut off. And then a week later, in the mail, my benefits of my insurance were cut off. And then I got a letter in the mail saying all my stuff from my childhood home was packed up in boxes and put at the top of the driveway, and I could come get it, and I had by Friday, and if I didn't, everything would go to the trash.
This sounds to me like if I'm watching a movie,
A Hallmark movie or a Lifetime movie. Yeah.
and it's this worst case scenario that you'd be watching this movie and go, there's no way that's too over the top.
Yeah. And at this time, he was with his new girlfriend, and basically when I brought my mom, because I rekindled my friendship with my mom and my relationship with my mom, and she lived in Waterbury, just a couple blocks away, and we drove up. We were not allowed to, she was not allowed to go on the property. She was told if she touched even on the driveway, he would call the cops and have her arrested. So, and he had cameras installed. So, went to go get my boxes. The minute I got out of the car onto the driveway, the girlfriend comes out and she's like, oh, here, let me help you with your boxes.
Right.
And I wanted nothing to do with it. And my dad, being the spiteful son of a bitch he is, can I say that?
Yo, sure.
I'm sorry.
I think you've earned that and more.
He had put all of the trophies that we won together in all like the martial arts, because I used to do martial arts with his studio, which is something also that I wasn't into, because I'm not a fighter and it wasn't my thing.
Right.
But we had done competitions and I had won, trophies and stuff. All the trophies were at the top of the boxes. So as I was leaving, I had taken the trophies and I had thrown them out. We were driving by, threw all the trophies out the window into his garden over the fence. and that was like my last,
Sure.
stupid,
That's horrifying. I have 3 kids.
Wow.
And the idea of, I'm going to choke up thinking about this. The idea of doing that to any of them is so incomprehensible to me.
Yeah. And I mean, the sad story too is shortly after this happened to me, the same thing happened to my sister, except in different circumstances. My sister, who was living with my dad, she's 3 years younger than me, so she was still
she's a minor.
She was still a minor, so under the divorce decree, they have the shared custody, so it was the back and forth. I was not written into that because I was 18, so I could make my own choices. So
it's amazing that arbitrary.
She didn't come out as gay or anything, but there was a day that I guess she came home. She had dyed her hair and got highlights in it or something, and he's a power control kind of guy, and he didn't like it and told her to change it, and she said no, and he kicked her out of the house that day. And
Well, it seems like he's just ready to snap at that point.
well, kind of what happened is, so he had replaced my mom with this new woman.
Yeah.
The mom also had the new wife had 2 other children. Actually, I'm sorry, three
okay.
other children. So
Wholesale replacement.
pretty much.
Yeah.
So he had kind of replaced his family with a new family.
Yeah.
And then I also found out through somebody that the older daughter of the new girlfriend was not getting along with him, and so she actually was told to move back in with her father.
Yeah.
So they got rid of her, and now it's a boy and a girl.
Oh my
and
God.
the boy got my old childhood room, and the girl got my sister's room. It was very. And then they had painted the entire house, the entire exterior. Our house, our childhood home, was red with black shutters, and it was like. I always remembered, I live at the red house, and everyone was like, you live at the red house. They painted the house gray, and then they sold it.
Yeah.
And my dad
Wow.
took all of the bonds that were for my college. He was the beneficiary on them, so he signed them, liquidated them, and I'm gonna say this because I am pretty sure. I'm sure he used some of that money towards the new large mansion house that he bought in I don't remember where it was, but he bought a new house. They sold our childhood home, and so it was hard. And then he got
Wow.
remarried. I haven't spoken to him in over 8 years, and I don't intend to. I'm
Yeah.
definitely a stronger person with
Well, something
of
like
this.
that, I mean, either has to just break you completely
it
or
definitely did.
or serve to motivate you, and even if it breaks you temporarily,
It definitely did because
gives you a place to build back up to.
first it broke me down.
Yeah.
I was in a really rough, hard time.
Yeah.
I immediately went and got a job working. I think I was working at the mall at Sears or something.
Yeah.
Just because I needed to make money and I needed to figure out my life. And the thing that happened that changed was I had gotten a Facebook message from my old director from the Children's Theater.
Oh, okay.
His name is Bob Tansley, and he was currently working at Post University as head of security there.
Oh, wow.
He started a theater group called the Post Theatrical Players at the college. And he messaged me and said, "Hey, Ben, it's Mr. Tansley from Blessed Sacrament. Don't know what you're doing, but I'm doing a production of Avenue Q.
Oh,
And
wow.
I need a Rod, which is a character from the show.
Yeah.
And if you're interested, I'd love for you to be in it." So I reached out to him. We reconnected, and I ended up doing that show. And once again, theater came back into my life and
Yeah.
basically saved me.
Wow.
Besides all of the therapy and everything,
Yeah, right.
with this and that and the
Right,
other.
right.
So it was all of that, and then it was just like a blessing in
Yeah.
disguise, and it was just like that silver lining that said, "Wow."
Yeah, but so this was all going on while you were doing Rocky Horror, or was this
was
Oh my God.
I had left school and was still in rehearsals, and when I was living with my grandma when it was like the showtime, it was Halloween weekend or something, we were doing the
Yeah.
shows, and there were like 6 shows or 5 shows or something, and they drove me
Yeah.
back and forth to and they came to see it, which
Your
was
grandmother,
really nice.
yeah.
And that was my first experience in quote unquote drag.
Yeah.
So having the support of that was really, really nice.
That must have been huge to have your grandmother being there at that time when all that stuff was going on. Is that your mom's mom?
My mom's mom.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom's mom.
Yeah.
My father's mom and grandfather. So back into the story about that, real quick. So his mother passed away.
Yeah.
And is no longer with us. It's been years. But his father was also on the same page as him with me being gay. Was
Yeah.
completely against it. Well,
You don't get there on an island. You get there with somebody
correct.
helping you along.
Correct. So I was cut off ties from him,
Yeah.
and then he died. So I had got to see him in the hospital before he passed. And then I saw in the newspaper that the services were happening.
Yeah.
And me, my sister, I, and my mom were not mentioned at all. As like they mentioned
survived by
the 2 kids as the grandchildren, the new kids. So,
oh man,
my mom was told that if she goes, she will be escorted by people off the premises of the wake of the funeral home. So, I went with my mom, and we linked arms, and we walked down the aisle, and I said my goodbyes and paid my respects and whatever, with him standing right then and there. And as his 2 best friends approached us to get rid of us, we left. And then I made a long rewrite of the article that was in the newspaper on Facebook. as just closure for myself and to the rest of the family that wasn't there and everything. But so back to what you were saying about the that was her mother, and her side of the family has always been supportive of everything I do.
So going from Rocky Horror, like out of that show through all of this, just massive upheaval. How did you see yourself moving forward as a performer with all these other transitions going on in your life? Because I mean, it's pretty well established at this point. Theater has to be a part of not just your life, but like a healing process or personal growth and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So how did you see yourself moving out of Rocky Horror, out of culinary school, and into really a performance life?
So Avenue Q was what really changed it, because I was back. I was back, and I was now working in. I was with a college, and they really made me feel like an honorary student because I was there so much for rehearsals and the show and everything.
Yeah.
And I've always looked up to my director Bob as like the dad I never had, and he's said that to me before. Like, he has been one of my biggest supporters in everything I do for years.
Yeah.
And for him to bring me back to the world of theater was like this just magical experience. And then once I had done Avenue Q, he asked, what my schedule was like, and I was asked to join him as the choreographer for his next production of Annie, which was at the children's theater that I started at. And that's where the friendship and the job of me being a choreographer over there started.
Yeah.
And
were there still a lot of people there that you knew?
Yeah.
From the years?
Oh yeah. Basically the whole team was there.
That's amazing.
That I remembered. Like all of the parents and all of the people who were part of it were still there, and it was really, really nice.
Yeah.
To just basically go back home.
Yeah.
And I had moved out of my grandmother's apartment house at this point, moved back in with my mom, and we were in Waterbury, and then was doing Annie and a whole bunch of other shows. Basically every year I would go back and do the children's theater, and I was on payroll with them, and it was wonderful to just work with kids. And I saw a completely different side of me with, I don't just have to be on stage. I love teaching people what I know. Yeah. And watching kids discover the magic of theater, see that
that's
spark
not even something
in their
you would
eye.
have known if you hadn't gotten a chance to do it either.
And you can't explain that, and you can't fake that, So doing that, and then I had moved out on my own, and I was renting rooms out here and there, and I had a job, and I was working part-time. Well, Rocky Horror came and found me again. And I
get the feeling it never finds anybody just once.
No, it doesn't. And I was asked to play Frankfurter in a production with Playhouse on Park in West Hartford.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And so I did the show. And the night of the show, I met these 2 guys. And the story's funny because they were drunk and they were hitting on me. And one of them was like, wow, you're really talented. You're really good. I'm a drag queen. And if you come to this place, I'll get you an audition and an opportunity to perform.
This is, that's what you want to do. Just seen you do Frankenfurter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the drag queen's name, and she's still around and she's fabulous and I love her. Her name is Marita Bonita.
Okay.
And the venue we were at was called Polo, the Polo Club in Hartford, which is no longer around, unfortunately. So when I was, this was still when I was living with my grandmother, because I remember my aunt would take me up and down. And I was 18, 19 at the time, 18, 19 at the time. So technically it's a 21 plus place.
Okay.
But they allow 18, you just have to pay a cover. So here I am paying a $10 or $20 cover to do what I want to do. And I would go to every event they had because I just wanted my face to be there.
This was a drag show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Drag night.
Yeah.
And finally I got an audition. It was, I'll never forget it. It was St. Patrick's Day, and it was a St. Patrick's Day show. And I was doing a St. Patrick's Day themed event. And the minute it was over, I immediately got booked for another themed event. It was Alice in Wonderland. And I remember I was doing a production of Grease at Post University because basically I would flip-flop because we would do Post would happen and then children's theater would happen. So I would do the Post show and then I would do a children's theater show.
Yeah.
So I was doing Grease, and I was, funny enough, playing Danny Zuko. Not a role that I would ever see myself playing.
Yeah.
But that was something. And I was also playing...
just generally, you're just not tall enough.
Yeah, exactly. And I was also playing...
you're my height, more or less.
Yeah. And I was also playing the teen angel who sings Beauty School Dropout.
Oh, you did both of those. Oh, boy.
We had two casts, so we interchanged.
All right.
But the last night that I was playing Danny... I had the Alice Wonderland thing, and it was the same time. So I worked it out with my co-star and said, could you play both parts in the same night? And he said, sure. And I remember getting ready. Someone drove me there to the venue, and I was getting in drag in the front seat of the car with the rear view mirror in a moving vehicle trying to figure this out. And it worked, and I figured it out. And
that seems like a lot of makeup for that little mirror.
It was pretty bad. And it was back then when I really didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I was going by another drag name that she got run over by a bus a long time ago. We don't talk about her.
Sad.
Yeah, we don't talk about her. She died a long time ago.
So where did Summer come from?
Well, Summer was always there. So it started with the first drag name I came up with was Summer Snatch. And Summer's
right.
And that name came from my experience with drag, thinking, it's humorous and you have to have a dirty, funny name to be a drag queen. Yeah. Well, that wasn't getting me a lot of attention and wasn't getting me any bookings or anything, so I decided to change it. I always liked Summer because it's my favorite season. So Summer, we kept Summer. But then I went with Orlando because, one, it's my real last name.
Right.
So it's like personal. And then it's also like FU to basically... I mean, I think you could put two and two together. But basically anyone who didn't support me and basically said that I would never amount to anything and this, that, and the other thing.
Well, it seems like anyone who said that in the past, you're certainly doing a lot to prove them completely wrong.
I'm trying.
I mean...
I'm very, very happy with where my life... without all of these hardships, though, I couldn't be the strong person I am.
Yeah. I mean, and that, I think, is something that's really important for people, like creatively-minded people and artists to kind of... not just to kind of realize and kind of settle on in themselves, to realize that whatever you've been through has kind of created what you are today, but it's got to help in terms of helping to bring your creative energies out and put them out into the world. If you haven't gone through adversity, I don't see how you get the confidence to be able to share what's really the most vulnerable parts of any performer with other people, whether it's painting, which is, your vulnerability on display on a wall, performing on stage, which is just your inner self and whatever, just all there.
Yep.
So being able to take all that and channel it into something creative and positive it's pretty incredible to me. I love seeing that.
It sure is, yeah.
What was it like for you kind of assimilating into the drag community? Because it sounds like there was already one present in the area to some degree.
So there are a lot of drag communities. It just depends on the area. So in Waterbury, where I was living, there was nothing.
Right.
There was no gay anything. So there was no way for me to expose myself to any culture in that way.
Yeah.
So Hartford, to me, was the only place, because I had that open door.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had met... I remember I went to a benefit at 168 York Street Cafe in New Haven with a friend of mine, and I decided to go and drag. And I watched these three amazing drag performers.
Yeah.
And I will never forget them. It was Lucia Virginity, Casey Fitzpatrick, and Tiana Maxim Rose, and who are still frequent in the drag community. And I was just blown away by their performance and their how they looked and just the way they were.
Yeah. And
I got to talk with them afterwards and basically, made a connection with them. And then I was back and forth to New Haven all the time to go to shows. And then finally I had an opportunity to perform, and it just kind of grew from there.
Yeah. So you've got Summer Orlando is your general drag persona.
Yes.
Right. But then you've sort of subdivided that personality, it seems like, into some other characters that you play relatively regularly. Judy Garland being one of them.
Uh-huh.
So how does that work for you? Is it all extensions of one character?
Yes. So basically, Summer Orlando is me. That's my drag persona.
Okay.
Okay. What I do is when I play those characters, it's like a celebrity illusion.
Okay.
Or like an impersonator kind of thing. I'm a female impersonator, but I also impersonate Judy Garland, and I do characters like different Disney characters. One of my really well-known one is Winifred Sanderson from Hocus Pocus, Bette Midler.
Yeah.
Which is...
I think I saw a picture of you as Snow White.
Yep,
as well.
Snow White, Mary Poppins, Cinderella.
Mary Poppins,
I've done a whole bunch. Broadway is and that's another thing too. My drag comes from my theater background, so I pull it from everything that I know and love from the world of theater and Broadway and show tunes and musical theater, and that's my shtick.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you go about taking your character, yourself, your character, and developing material around Summer Orlando or Judy Garland or Disney princesses, whoever it is, and you're working with other drag artists as well?
Yes.
Right? So you're developing your own material to put shows on.
Well, in regards to Judy Garland, that is a strict celebrity impersonation.
Okay.
It is a... basically, I am paying tribute to her.
Okay.
Okay, so it's to look like her.
Mm-hmm.
I sing live. When I do Judy Garland, I sing all of her hit songs.
Mm-hmm.
And I carry myself the way she would truly and honestly if she was when she was alive.
Right.
And this idea, I was inspired by some of the greats of the world. There are many celebrity impersonators, and some of the greatest Judy Garland impersonators. I don't know if you know who Jim Bailey is, but Jim Bailey, who's long since passed, he was one of the greatest Judy Garland impersonators because not only could he look like her, but he was able to sing like her to where if you closed your eyes, you couldn't tell the difference. And he sang it in her original keys. And
she had a very distinctive voice, too.
She did.
But how does, and I said this before, you're a young human being.
Yeah.
Judy Garland is not your demographic.
But it is.
Well, I mean, but
for me, it is because I was raised. I consider myself an old soul because, like I said, I discovered Wizard of Oz early, and I was always into the old Hollywood movies, and I was raised learning music not your typical like pop music and whatever. I was
Right.
raised on oldies and things like that. So growing up with Liza Minnelli and Judy Garland
boy.
and Bette Midler
Yeah.
and
was
some of the great divas.
Long line of divas right
yeah,
there.
Julie Andrews. All of those things resonated with me as a child. And
Yeah.
hell, I remember dressing up and running around my house dressed like Mary Poppins as a little kid.
But how did you know that doing these characters, this, not even that Judy Garland specifically, but characters from that era, how did you know that they would translate to audiences today? Because I know there are people my age who
don't
have
know.
no
I
idea
know.
who Judy Garland is until you say, "Oh, she was Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz,"
And
and they don't know anything beyond
and that still happens.
Right.
Like, I go places and people have no idea. And
I mean, Liza Minnelli, she's the one that was on Arrested Development, right?
yes, yes, and Sex and the City too.
Right. Oh, I don't know that one.
She did the single ladies dance. Yes.
But you seem to be able to take in these ideas and these characters and made them translate into modern, current pop culture.
Well, I still think that Judy is very. We need to talk about her, and people need to know who she is. But she's still very frequent in pop culture. I mean, yes, you know her immediately if you say Wizard of Oz. It's
Right.
Judy Garland. But, I don't know if many people know that she was in the second version of A Star Is Born. And
I didn't know that.
she played the lead. So the version that Lady Gaga just did,
Yeah.
she was the Lady Gaga of her time.
Okay.
Okay.
I know the Barbra Streisand version. That's the one.
Yes,
That's the
and
one I know.
and that was done that was the version that was done after Judy's.
Okay.
And every single version, it's the same story, but they changed the music and the genre of the music
Yeah.
and
Just update it for whatever
correct.
the current zeitgeist is.
yeah. But there were just
And whoever the current
and
Bradley Cooper
Judy
is.
is such a gay icon. I mean, Stonewall happened in New York City. That was all happening the day of Judy Garland's death or funeral.
Wow.
And it's because the gays were so outraged and sad by the death of this great entertainer that
Yeah.
they used their anger towards to make something good.
Yeah. So you do a two-person show.
I
right?
do, yes.
So who's the other half of that act?
There's a wonderful performer, Barbara Jones Streetsand. She is Connecticut's premier Barbra Streisand impersonator.
Okay.
And we have been working together for the last 3 years. And she sings Barbara live and looks just like her. It's absolutely astonishing.
Yeah.
And we came together and decided to start our own cabaret variety style show.
Okay.
Which we do every third Friday of the month at 168 York Street Cafe in New Haven. It's called the Boozy Barbara Broadway Bash. And that's the show it started with. And we didn't start on Fridays. We had started on Sundays.
Uh-huh.
And Sundays were really, really rough. We had an 8 o'clock show. We had maybe 5 people in the audience.
Yeah.
It was super small. And we were losing money compared to making money. But we loved what we do so much that we just kept at it.
Yeah.
And because we kept at it, we were able to move our night. And our opening night of our new time slot, we had like 96 people. There were people sitting on windowsills and on the floor. and it was amazing.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I want to talk briefly
Mm-hmm.
about your experience with The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, sure.
Because that seems like a big deal,
Yeah.
and I think it deserves some attention.
Absolutely.
So you... Let me make sure I get this right. I don't want to have to look it up.
Do you want me to say it?
No, I want to try to get it right.
Okay.
You were the first, male performer authorized by Warner Brothers?
No.
No, okay. I knew I'd get it wrong. Okay, now you try.
No. Warner Brothers, unfortunately, was not. Well, they're involved because they do have the license for Wizard of Oz, but
Okay.
the licensing goes through a company called Tams Whitmark.
Okay.
Okay. And I am the first male actor to ever play the role of Dorothy in a licensed production of The Wizard of Oz in the entire world.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the whole world.
In the whole world.
Like planet Earth, whole world.
Planet Earth, whole world. It's never been done before.
When did you pull this off?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. The Wizard of Oz has been around
In
for
July.
how long?
The Wizard of Oz came out in 1939.
The movie?
The movie.
Okay, and the book predates it by
A lot.
a long time.
Yeah.
So this is 100 years of Wizard of Oz, give or take.
Yeah.
And it's been performed, I don't know, every single
Millions of
day
times.
of every year somewhere.
Yeah. I actually have a friend who I went to school with who's actually playing the Scarecrow in the national tour.
Yeah.
Right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
it's still going. Like
Yeah.
it's huge.
I mean, I know that sort of gender bending roles is something that's kind of new.
I don't think it's new.
Well, what I mean is newly acceptable, I think, for general audiences,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
But to take such an iconic role as Dorothy and put such a different spin on it as far as casting goes, that's a big deal to be able to pull that off. So, I mean, how was that for you? I mean, I know you started with The Wizard of Oz as the Scarecrow.
Yeah.
And then all these years later, now you're wearing the blue and white checkered dress. So describe that experience.
That I paid for. I want to let you know that you can't wear a blue and white checkered dress or red shoes without having a license with the show.
Yeah. So what was the experience like for you to be able to play that and, and pull off that show?
It was the greatest opportunity and privilege, an honor. I can't even put it into words. It's definitely one of my biggest accomplishments to date.
Yeah.
When I came up with the concept, it originally was supposed to be, I had wrote not my own version, but basically I wanted to do a drag version of The Wizard of Oz, and it was going to be called The Wizard of Oz, a musical dragtacular. Okay. And it was going to be a 50-minute show.
Yeah.
And it was going to be all lip-synced, except I was going to sing Over the Rainbow live, because all my other cast members could not sing, because I was going to have all drag queens.
Okay.
And the Tams Whitmark representative reached out to me because she saw the posts online and said, I see you're doing The Wizard of Oz. You need to have a license for this.
Yeah.
And you need to get it through us. So they said, if you don't, then we have to contact Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers will sue you. Like, everything you're worth and more.
Yeah.
So I raised all of the money in a week, thanks to the amazing community that I have. And I got the rights to do the show. And I put it together.
So you had to get the rights to do even your stripped down 50-minute.
No. Well, I had to get they wouldn't allow me to do that.
Oh, okay.
They said you can't do this because this is not
right. It's copyright infringement at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
And you can't be doing that. So especially with a big corporation like Warner Brothers, it's like going against Disney. You don't do that.
Right.
So basically, it was always the concept that I wanted to play Dorothy. And that was the first question that I asked them. I said, well, I don't see anywhere in the script or anywhere, whatever, that says that Dorothy can't be played by a male performer.
Right.
And they said, we've never been asked that question before.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm asking it now. And they said, well, we don't see why it could be a problem.
Okay.
And I was like, great, that's what I'm going to do.
So they didn't push back on that at all.
And then they got back to me and did their research and said, you're the first one. And so once that happened, then all the newspapers and the magazines and the online blogs and BroadwayWorld.com got it. And it just grew from there, and it was amazing. And it was so great because in the world of acting and theater, they tell you two things: never work with children and never work with animals.
Right.
Well, I did both.
Yeah.
I had a live dog as Toto.
Oh, boy.
I had kids from ages like 6 to 12 in the show. I had drag queens. The Wicked Witch and Glinda were played by drag queens, and we had an amazing drag artist named Gigantus Smalls who played the sassy talking tree.
Okay.
And the door person, the Emerald City door person.
Yeah.
And it was and the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion were cast as male, and it was an absolutely fantastic production.
Yeah. Where was this? Where was it done?
This was at a theater in New Britain called the Hole in the Wall Theater.
Oh, okay.
And basically, I was just using their space.
Yeah.
The entire production was put on by me.
Yeah.
And the only connection that I have with that theater is that I was doing the show in their space. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that the first full-scale production you had done?
Yes.
In that role?
Yes.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, like, I mean, if you're
Of Wizard of Oz or
no of anything, was it the first time you put the whole thing on yourself?
This was huge.
Yeah.
This was huge.
So had your Judy Garland persona existed prior to
No.
this? So this was sort of the jumping off point for a Judy
It
Garland?
was kind of the jumping off point, and it was because I was inspired by such great performers like Peter Mack, who is a world-renowned Judy Garland impersonator who does a show every Saturday in New York City at the Producers Club.
Okay.
He does like a one-woman Judy Garland show where he sings all of the great hits live as Judy.
Yeah.
And he's been selling out for years. And
So you've said that a few times about things now where drag performers either would sing live. Is that unusual?
it's rare.
Okay.
Well, not rare, and in this day and age, it's uncommon here in Connecticut. There's
Okay.
not a lot.
Yeah.
I can probably name all of the performers. I won't on my hand,
Yeah.
but I won't.
Now, is that just
Typical drag is usually lip sync.
okay?
So it's usually playing a track of whatever famous artist you're performing to
Mm-hmm.
and lip syncing, which moving your mouth to the words.
Right.
Basically,
Like
so that you
being
have the
on SNL.
illusion,
Yeah.
the illusion of being that person.
Right. Okay.
But I have the talent that I can actually sing like these people and also just have a good voice where I can just sing live, period.
Right, yeah.
Which I prefer to sing live.
Of course.
And audiences tend to prefer it too, I find.
I would imagine so. Yeah. I mean,
Because it also elevates the way your drag a little bit, because now you don't always just have to be in the bar and club scene. You can play to cabaret venues, you can play to theaters, you can play
Right.
to restaurants. It's,
Yeah.
it's the gamut is large.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I want to give you a chance to talk about a couple things you have coming up
Yeah.
with the youth theater.
Yes, absolutely.
So Mary Poppins and
Yes.
Willy Wonka Jr.
Uh-huh.
are both coming up in the next, well, but when this comes out, within the next probably month or two, would be my guess.
Well,
Willy Wonka's in March, right?
Willy Wonka's in May,
Oh, in May. Okay.
and Mary Poppins is in June.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I am the. We'll talk about Willy Wonka first.
Sure.
So I'm the choreographer for Willy Wonka Kids with Bridgeport Public Schools.
Okay.
This is put on in collaboration with Arts in Connecticut, which is a nonprofit organization
Mm-hmm.
that brings arts in the theater and performing
Yeah,
arts
it's a good organization.
to local
I think.
places. And so I was hired as the choreographer, and I am working with kids from 3rd grade to 6th grade,
Okay.
and it is an absolute joy. This is a more diverse group of kids that I've worked with before, and they are absolutely so talented. The first day of rehearsal, I saw the drive and the want and the spark in the eye that I see when I work with the My Children's Theater
Yeah.
company that I've worked with for millions of years now. And it's just the same, and watching them discover the joy of theater. Now, this is the first ever theater anything that the school is doing.
Oh, really?
Yes. So this is their first big
Wow.
show that they're doing.
That's great to hear, because there's a lot of places that are cutting their theater programs. So it's nice to hear of a new one.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
And I'm really excited for them to do the show. It's going to be very, very good.
Yeah.
And my director is absolutely amazing, and he's younger. He's a music teacher, and he's the music teacher there.
Okay.
And he was the one that stepped up to the plate and was like, I want to do a show for the kids.
Yeah.
And
Oh, that's awesome.
and I'm so excited to see what the kids are going to do.
That is
It's going to
amazing.
be really, really good.
Now, Mary
And that's
Poppins.
and that's May 31st.
Oh, May 30th. It's just one night?
Yeah,
Oh,
two performances,
oh,
but
okay.
May 31st is the.
All right. So Mary Poppins, you're doing another, I don't know, a world's first, but
Mary Poppins
pretty great adjustment to the casting on this.
Oh, yeah. Well, Mary Poppins is with the Blessed Sacrament Children's Theater, based out in Waterbury, Connecticut, they were called the Blessed Sacrament School, but they've just merged with another Catholic school, so now there's like 300 kids. So they're like the United Catholic School. I don't remember what they're called, right. So forgive me on that. But we're the Blessed Sacrament Children's Theater. And
this is the one you grew up
This
with.
is the one that I grew up in, that I have also... I've been the choreographer for the last 6 years.
Okay.
With them. And... we had just finished the last show we did with the Music Man. So now we're back doing a fantasy. And we are flying. We are using Flying by Foy, which is the same company that flew Kathy Rigby in Peter Pan.
Okay.
And we used them before when we did Peter Pan.
Hopefully they got some younger people operating the equipment now.
No, it's actually no. We have adults running the flying and all of that. That's like safety 101. But the kids do get to fly, and we work with kids pre-K to grade 8 there.
Oh wow!
So I mean, how many kids can say like how many 8th graders can say I was Mary Poppins and I flew across the stage?
Probably not very many.
Not many, because in most community theaters. The adults get like the big roles, and then the kids, are the ensemble. There's not a lot of roles for kids.
Yeah.
And we flip it on its head with what we do, and we give them these challenging roles. And, and it's amazing. God. Because I would put these kids up against any high school production or any college production or adult production for that matter.
Yeah.
And they are so professional.
Oh, that's
absolutely
awesome.
Well, this year, we are doing... we've always been and always will be an all-inclusive company. Mm-hmm. So we accept everybody, including, and I should say this, we accept any special needs kids that their parents think that they can handle it and want to be exposed to the world of theater and want to know what it's like to be in a show. We take everybody.
Well, that's amazing.
Okay, and we will work with everybody of every level. But what we're doing this year is all the roles for Mary Poppins, because it's a fantasy, are non-gender specific. So if you want to audition for the show, the rules that we are going by for auditions are, if you are good enough for the role and you can do the role as it's written and do the role as it should be performed, there is no reason why you can't play that role.
Nice.
So if a girl wants to play the role of Bert, or if... I'm going to shoot for the sky. If a boy wants to play Mary Poppins, I don't see why that is not allowed.
Yeah.
And I think it's an inspired idea, and it was my director, Bob Tansley's idea, and I think, he was inspired by what I did with Wizard of Oz and with it being 2019, and he's just always had views like that where, all kids should have the opportunity to do everything. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really
awesome. So Mary Poppins is actually, if I can give the show dates, I'll give show dates. Because no one is going to want to miss this show. It's going to be absolutely amazing, and we always
Is it a single weekend?
Yep. Yeah. It is.
You said it was in June, I think.
Yep. It's June 20th, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd.
Okay.
We always do 6 shows.
Okay.
So there'll be 2 shows on Saturday and 2 shows on Sunday.
Okay.
And you can find us on Facebook. You can find us we have an Instagram now. It's brand new. Please follow us. It's BSCTHEATRE, which is theater spelled the right way. CT. BSCT. So it's BS Theater, spelled RECT.
Okay.
And you can follow us on Instagram and see pictures of the kids and some of the videos of our choreography progress and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And tickets will be available, and we hope to see you there. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So where can people see your shows?
Oh, people can see me everywhere. So I am based in New Haven, Connecticut. We have a show at 168 York Street Cafe every 3rd Friday of the month at 10 p.m. It's called the Boozy Barber Broadway Bash, and I host that alongside Barbara Jones Street Sand. And that's a cabaret variety style show. So we
Okay.
bring in local artists as well as artists from New York City and all over the place.
Okay.
Not just drag queens, I can't talk, magicians, live singers, female singers, dancers, pianists, you name it.
Awesome.
And we just started a new event at Next Door Restaurant, which is on Humphrey Street in New Haven, called Get Happy at Next Door. It is our monthly happy hour show, which happens on Saturdays from 4 to 7.
Okay.
And starting in March, I am going to be doing at 3 Sheets in New Haven, which is on Elm Street. We are starting Drag Bingo,
Nice.
which is going to be absolutely amazing. That is going to be the second Thursday of every month from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. And the best part about this bingo is there is absolutely no cover. So you can come, play bingo for free, and win prizes. Like, and drink. Tell me where there's a negative in anything that I just said.
Those all sound
Exactly.
really great.
And Barbara and I are actually going to be bringing our show here as well. We were just asked to do that. And we have some other cool things in store. And we have, as you were talking about Judy Garland, February 22nd, we have the Judy and Barbara show at Hardcore Sweet Cupcakes in Oakville, Connecticut.
Okay.
And that is our live stage show that we do, where I impersonate Judy Garland and she plays Barbara Streisand. And it's basically Judy and Barbara are reunited once again for one night only, and hilarity ensues.
Nice.
And that's all I'm going to say. And there's lots of live singing and surprises in store. And we are almost all sold out, but you can go to my Facebook and find all of the information there.
Okay. Where can people find you on social media?
People can find me at Summer Orlando on Facebook. Summer Orlando Official is my fan page. You can find me on Instagram at Miss Summer Orlando or at my website, summerorlandoproductions.com. And also, one more thing, too. In March, we are doing in Bristol. This is big news.
Oh, boy.
We are doing a show called Dinner's a Drag, and it is the first drag event, public event, to happen in Bristol ever. It's called, Yep.
In Bristol?
In Bristol, Connecticut. I want to say, yes, it's March 23rd, and we are actually already completely sold out. We were only,
wow.
Yeah, we promoted it for a week and a half, and it sold out way ahead of time.
Oh, that's great.
And this is going to be at Delish Lounge in Bristol, Connecticut, which is an amazing restaurant venue. And it's going to be basically a lot of celebrity impersonation. We have a Cher impersonator named Chastity Singer, who, if you close your eyes, you'll swear that Cher is singing live in front of you.
All right.
And Judy will be there, and Barbara will be there, and Bette Midler will be there, and tons of other surprises.
Wow.
And special guests.
That's sold out that quickly, huh?
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And I do a bunch of stuff in New York City as well.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So I like to get at the end of these chats with everybody a recommendation for something that you really try to encourage people to experience newly that they haven't experienced before. So you have something you'd like to pass along as a recommendation?
Well, I always say everyone should go out into their local community and find local theater, go to a local drag show, support your local performing artists.
Oh, yeah.
We cannot do what we do without your support, and neither can they. And, you know, you may find the next big Broadway star in a small town, and it's really cool if you know, I've met so many talented performers and seen so many shows and said, you know what, that person is going somewhere.
It's really amazing, the talent, like in community theater levels these days.
It really is.
So many amazing performers.
And start them young. I mean, if you have kids, get them involved with children's theater.
Yep.
Get them involved with community theater. Expose kids to the arts. It's what's needed in this world now.
Absolutely.
We need culture. We need the arts. We need theater. We need drag. It's true. It's true.
All right. Thank you so much for doing this.
You're
I really
very
appreciate
welcome.
it.
It is my pleasure.
All right. Thank you.
Of course.
Again, thank you so much to Ben for sharing such an incredible story with me. It was really genuinely impactful on me personally, and on my drive home from our recording, I really thought quite a bit about some of the things that he said. So as a father myself, if there's really anything that I want to make sure to pass along to my kids as they grow up, it's that they are always going to be loved and supported no matter what, in any way that I can. And if Ben's story helps anyone else with their own journey, or even with the acceptance of someone else's path, I mean, that's really all I could ever hope for. I definitely intend to check out my first drag show some point in the near future. Hopefully it will be one of Summer Orlando's upcoming shows in New Haven or somewhere else in the area. And if you are in the New Haven area, make sure to check out Summer appearing at York Street Cafe or Three Sheets or one of the other venues in the area. And if you want to find event schedules, photos, videos, anything else about Summer Orlando, then you can visit summerorlandoproductions.com for all of that information, and certainly follow on all the social media platforms. So, in the spirit of supporting local arts and artists, why not also support local podcasts and podcasters? Table to Stage official merch is now available at tabletostagepod.com. Coffee mugs and sticker packs, that's it for now, but more is coming, hopefully. So if you are a patron supporter, and there are a few of you, you can get some pretty freaking sweet discounts on all the merch that is currently in the shop. If you've been listening for a while and want to help grow the community here, please leave a rating or review on iTunes or whatever your favorite podcast service is. That's going to be it for now. Until next time, keep creating.